Hello everybody and welcome to our first end of season review here with our Moneyball series. And yeah, so to bring you the results at the end of the season, we'll start off here. Yeah, we got away with it in the end, if I'm honest. We managed to get a few good results and ended up finishing in a decent position from where we were. I was really concerned. This game was just ridiculous. The back and forth, the chances created. We were pretty bad defensively. We were good going forwards though. And I do think that buying the right defenders will actually make us a lot more solid. If we can just stop the opposition scoring goals and creating chances, we should still be just as good going forwards, even if we bought no players. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be better next season with the tactic, and it's the right way to go still. I'm pretty much set on this tactic going through the whole of next season, so there's no danger of us changing that. So let's have a look at how the league table finished. We ended up finishing almost pretty much bang on mid-table in terms of not just the position, but the amount of points we were from relegation and also the playoffs. Just a bang average mid-table team. So today's episode then, we're going to do the end of season review. We'll do that first. Then when we come back, we'll start to go through some and have a detailed look at the clubs that have been promoted and the clubs that are in the playoffs. We're going to have a look at their stats for the season, for example, their centre backs, and make some average scores of then the stats that we're going to look for when we try and buy players this season. So we'll go through every single team. We'll take their central defenders' stats for every single thing that we have listed in ours. So we'll go through every team and we'll take an average for their goals, mistakes, their aerial challenges per 90 minutes, headers, basically all of these things here for all the players and all the things that we look for. And we're going to create an average of what we need to recruit then for players to get promoted next season, because I think our tactic is now good enough to get promoted with the right team. I wasn't sure about before, but now I am. So all we need to do is recruit the number of stats that we need, and that should indicate the amount of wins we're going to get to then get promoted next season. That's the plan. That's the Moneyball plan here. And if we can get those players in the Championship or an equivalent league, that's the most important thing, because the level of opposition is going to affect the stats a little bit. So if we get a player that's got all these good stats, but they're in League 2, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to come through the same as we've already learnt with Matthew Platt. So we've got to be careful when we recruit players that the standard of football they're also playing has to be factored in for when the stats come in. Like, if we were to get a League 2 player, that's fine, but they might need a bit more scouting, because if Matthew Platt was excellently quick, that might have been in our favour. I think he is pretty quick, but he was a terrible defender. We conceded nearly 4 goals a game when he played, and he had 6 appearances. 3 of them were a sub, so there you go. That's the plan anyway. So let's get our end of season review underway. We are then end of season review, the new arrivals. It's not going to show any attribute series. No, it's not. Average rating here, the best was Josh Coyote. He was excellent, wasn't he? What a signing that was. He scored 12 goals in 19 appearances. He's going to continue next season. Now, a couple of the players at the start did have non-promotion release clauses, so we might lose a couple of players on a free, but I did turn that off after the second player I signed. I think Cornick and a couple of players might have it, but it's not everybody. And it's definitely not Coyote. What expectation was to avoid a relegation battle. We were never in that, so that's good. Well, maybe we were at one stage. Yeah, let's remember there was lots of good moments. That goal in that game was unbelievable. I remember that. I don't know if it was on camera or not. I mean, this doesn't mean anything until the second season, because you can't see what you're going from and to. Our reputation has stayed the same, hasn't changed at all. Shirts, etc., great. And the team, they're playing a 4-4-2. That was our best team, apparently. 4-2-4 DM wide is not a 4-2-4. It is a 4-4-2 FM. Plans for the season, Jordan Williams, he was excellent as a side defender in a back 3. Now, I'm tempted to sell him this season, and I'll tell you why. In a back 4, he might be a decent right back, because he can still cross a little bit, dribble, I think, and he's pretty quick. He's not lighting him, and he's a good defender. But if we could sell him for, I don't know, 4 million, we could probably bring in 4 starting level players in other positions, and we already have a right back that we're happy with. It's probably one of those situations where we're happy to lose almost anybody, because we feel like we can replace them, you see. So I don't know. We'll have a look at that. We go through, yep. So many good things there. Passes completed per 90 minutes is Ledson. Highest average rating is Jordan Williams. That's good. Coyote, yep. That is it. Our transfer budget is exactly the same as last season. That's not good, but we've got a much bigger wage budget, because we already were quite a bit over. Now it's given us another 10 grand. So that's, well, it's not a lot considering what we're trying to do, but it's still better than it was. So we'll take that. So I've just created a separate save file for right now, this day and this time right now. So if we need to go back and look at some scouting on some stats, we can go back. It might be still a few games away from the end of the season for some of the top divisions, but that's whatever. So I found on this FM, when you do these meetings, whatever you think you should be aiming for, tell the team you're going to achieve the one below that. And that normally is about the right one. So I'm thinking playoffs. So either top half probably be the right one to say. Yeah, a couple of them are hurt, but unrealistic, setting us up to fail. Okay, whatever. So we'll say insist, positive, neutral, positive. Thank you, lads. That was a good enough meeting. We'll take that. Okay, I'm just going to quickly skip 2 weeks further into the into the summer, because then the Premier League will actually finish their season. We'll know who's coming down. So I'm just going to do that quickly now, and I'll see you in a second then for, I don't know, at the end of maybe the start of June, something like that. We'll come back then. Okay, welcome back. So at the 1st of June, nothing's happened. Premier League has concluded its season. The teams that were going down have now gone down, and the playoffs have been concluded in the Championship, so we know who's going up and who's staying down with us. So now all of that has happened. Let's go and look at the players and look at exactly what stats we're going to try and recruit and bring into the football club next season. Now, I'm not going to sit you through every single thing I'm doing here because this would take a long time and it probably don't want to see all of it. But I'll show you the first one. It's a bit like what we did before, but we're going to do it for multiple different teams and show an average. I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. These are the 3 Sheffield United centre-backs that they used for this season in their back 4. We've got John Egan, Jackie O'Connell, and then Chris Basham here. And what I'm going to do, I think the best way for me to do this, I could either take all 3 of them and get an average of the 3 and then add it to every other average of the other teams, or we can just take the best player. What we'll do is we'll take an average of the 3 teams here. So I'm just creating a little document here on my laptop. So centre back. So we're going to start with goal mistakes. So it's two goal mistakes out of 3 players. So that's just 2 divided by 3, and that's 2/3. So that's going to come as like 0.666, whatever that is. If we're going to round it up, so 0.67, we'll round up. So 0.67 goal mistakes for the 3 centre backs, and then move on to aerial challenge attempts per 90 minutes. Now this can be affected by your style of play, how much you dominate teams. 105.76, add 13.74, add 14.93, 44.43. Then you divide that by 3, so average is 14.81. So if we were to take this as the whole top 5 that we're going to look at, and we were to apply that to a player we're looking at so far, we'd be looking for a centre-back that contributes to a total of 0.67 mistakes leading to goals per season, and aerial challenges per 90 is 14.81. Just want to see whether we can search like centre-back. Yeah, 1 second. Let's go import view, centre-back. We can sort it by that, but can we not just search for it? Can we search by stat? Can't search for a specific number. That's a bit annoying. But then we'd be looking at stats, chalkboards, aerial challenges per 90. Can't search for a specific amount, but we can cut it down so we don't have to look at as many. So we want somebody, mistake leading to goals is at most 1, no more than that. And aerial challenges per 90 is at least 10. That's what we're looking at so far. So that's what you would look at as you then go through. You could sort by however you want. You could go average rate. Obviously, this will be a much longer list. But just so far, if you're looking at those 2 things, we don't really care about mistakes. Nobody's really made that many. But then if we were to search it by this and then look at appearances, like you've got like just 1, 2, you've got a few players to look at there. You could look at, straight away. So and actually look half decent players, especially with the valuation. There must be half decent players. I've also now changed it to nationality, partially UK and Irish. I should have done that before. I forgot just to put the other countries in. So before we look at just English players, but obviously any of these players won't need a work permit either. So that broadens our horizons a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm just showing you that's what I'm going to be doing now. So I'll just cut here for a second and I'll continue to look through. This is going to take me quite a long time actually. But I'm just going to go through every single one of these for all 3 of their players and have them all down. And then after that, I'm going to go through every other team in the top 5. And eventually we'll get an average for those players. In fact, you know what? Let's change it to the top 3 because those top 3 teams were the top 2 that got automatically promoted and the best team that got into the playoffs and won. So let's do top 3. Let's change it to top 3. And that should be what we're aiming for to get promoted. So I'll come back in a second with all the details for you. And hopefully we should have a set of stats ready to go for us to buy from. Welcome back, everybody. So I just thought I'd show you this. This is what I've been doing for the last, I don't know how long it's been. It's not taken that long, but it's taken a little bit. So we've got here every single category that we look at for a centre-back currently on our panel anyway. What we're going to do here then is we're going to create an average on each of these categories among the 3 teams. So rather than just picking one team and going for that stat. So as you can see, some of the stats are actually quite different between the 3 teams. The one thing that's really high is pass completion. That's obviously an issue at the moment because that's very high for the 3 teams. Even taking in the mistakes, like 2 of the teams have got quite similar stats for that. One's a bit of an outlier, but they're in order as they finish. So Sheffield United finished first on 93 points, Fulham finished second 91, Bournemouth finished third on 88. I think in future years, like in the Premier League, what I probably would do is rather than taking 3 players to give me an average per team, I would just take 3 teams roughly in the area we're looking to aspire to get into, and just taking in their top player from each team, and we make that an average rather than, because that's 9 players effectively here. That's 3 players from Sheffield United, 3 players from Fulham, 3 players from Bournemouth. It gives us a better indication, I suppose, and more data to work with, but It was way more time consuming. I don't think we're that much better off for it, but that's how I've done it for the centre-back. I think for the other positions, I'll probably just take their best player from each one and just get an average then from the 3 teams, so it's a lot quicker. That's probably what I'll do. It'd be a lot easier to do. So, but yeah, anyway, I thought as I started it that in depth, it's not about being in depth, it's just that I don't think we get that much more out of it. If anything, it's just going to bring a lot of the numbers down a little bit. So I don't know. That's what we got anyway from these 3 teams. So I thought I'd show that to you first. Okay, so after crunching all the numbers, going through everything, our championship promotion winning centre-back looks like as follows. A goal mistakes of no more than 1.22. Aerial challenges per 90 is 15.28. Headers won per 90 is 12.77. Header win ratio is 83.44%. Interceptions per 90 is 3.21. Tackles per game is 0.79. Tackle completion ratio is 77.22%. Fouls 13.44. Key tackles 5.77. Pass completion ratio of 96.88. Team conceded per 90 is 0.96. Clearances 259.21. Team goals per 90 1.72. Now, I've taken all that information in. Now, in terms of what does that look like for a player that we're going to bring in, we're about to find out. So the first thing we need to look at is mistakes leading to goals, and it needs to be no more than 2. We can't do 1.5 or 1.22 because it doesn't give us the option to, so that can't happen there. So aerial challenges per 90, we've got that at least 10. That's as high as we can go. This is just to sort of break it all down. And it's header win ratio is the next one. So we go stats and chalkboard again. Headers won ratio, and that's going to be at least 80% for that. That's on doubtful it is. Okay, and then it's going to be interceptions per 90, and that needs to be at 3.21. Go with 3. Tackles per game is 0.79. Tackles per game is 0.79. We can only do 0, so that's no point in putting that on. We'll just leave it like 0 then, I guess. Tackle completion ratio is next, and that needs to be at 77.22%. So we'll go at least 77. Next one is fouls. That's going to be in general. Is at most 14, rounded it. Key tackles is at least 5.77. So already there, that's only given us a couple of options. Like, that's quite funny. Only a couple of players at all are fitting the criteria. We've still got a few more to go. I'm not sure if they're gonna be gone in the next one, but we'll do it all for now. Pass completion ratio needs to be at 96%. Team conceded per 90 needs to be, is at most 1. It's a 0.96, so that's out. Clearances is the next one. Team goals per 90, we can definitely get. That's going to be the last one. That needs to be 1.72, so that's at least 1.50. Okay, right, there we go. So that's our perfect player right there, and he does not exist. So we'd start scaling this back a little bit of what do we think is the most important thing to, or the least important thing rather, I suppose is the way to look at it. Can we just make this a bit bigger? Aerial challenges per 90. That isn't as important because that could be down to your tactic a little bit. So let's drop that by a couple. So it doesn't bring us anything. Interceptions, again, that could be down to a little bit the kind of team you're in. So I don't know if I want to drop that yet. In the pass completion ratio, that's something that I'm happy to drop to like 90. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so we've got 1 player now. Key tackles go down to 4. The team conceded, I'm going to that up to like 1.5. And team goals down because that's not always in their control. Fouls made. Raise that up to 30 because I'm not too bothered about that right this second. So right, we've got 3 players. We have Jason Kerr Wigan is given us, who is a potential championship winning centre-back for us. We have Dan Scarr, who was at Plymouth, who's at a lower level. So that's probably why we discount him immediately compared to these 2, because Ebketer also plays. So that's 2 players there in the championship that we have. That's 2 players that if they played in their back 4 in a good team, they're going to get promoted from the championship. So this is actually really fun. This is Moneyball right here. So we found 2 players. Now, how much are they worth? Jason Kerr we could probably get for a little bit of money. They're both a little bit expensive, but they are the players that we want. So we're going to add both these to the shortlist right now. And we're going to assign a scout to them right this second as well. Those are like premium players that we need to try and get if we can. Now, obviously money is a bit tight. So if that's not an option, what do we look at next? So let's remove a couple of these now or change the stats a little bit. Let's get rid of the team ones first. Doesn't change anything. Pass completion, let's get down to 85. We now have Terrell Thomas, who plays in the league below us. So I'm going to shortlist both of these as well, and I'm going to get them scouted. We now have them being looked at, even though they play at lower level. So aerial challenges per 90, that could be down to playing style. So let's just basically remove that. That can probably go down a couple. Brings us a very old Richard Keogh. That's not happening. Headers 1 ratio. Let's drop that to like 75. Let's see. Okay, there's a few more now. Lewis Freestone, no chance. And Joe Walsh, no chance. So we're getting players in lower leagues now. Interceptions per 90, that's going to get taken down to 2. Let's try that. Oh, there we go. Okay, now it's just giving us a load of players. So these are like all the next level players for us. So Frankie Kent, he looks like he could be quite a good player for our sort of thing. So if we're looking at what we need, his mistakes. So he's got 2 mistakes leading to goals, but that's fine. His aerial per 90 is above. His headers 1 is above. His header win ratio is slightly lower, but that's fine. Interceptions is slightly lower, but that's fine. Tackles per game is higher. Tackle ratio is higher. He's actually really good. So Frankie Kent, it's because he wasn't scoring on one attribute, the header win percentage, but everything else he was actually quite good. So add him to the shortlist, and we'll scout him with a different scout. So Jimmy Dunn is an championship player. He was a first choice player. He scores pretty good across the board as well, so we'll shortlist him. Edmondson, who's playing in League One with Ipswich. I just brought it to my screen so see. I've just brought the stats that I need onto my own screen here so I can see, so it's easier. So forgetting the mistakes, that I don't care about that. So challenges per 90, he's at right bang on. Headers 1 per 90, he's bang on. Headers and ratio is slightly lower, but that's okay. Interceptions, he is slightly lower. He's actually quite lower on that. Tackles per game, slightly lower. So he starts to get, he's slightly lower than the others. Not too far, not far off, like within, I think, the margin of error, so we'll definitely scout him. Jack Bottom's another. It's headers 1 per 90 that's not doing him very good. He's not very good in the air by the looks of it. So that puts me off him a little bit. I'm going to shortlist him. I'm not going to bother scouting him because I know what his deficiencies are. I'm going to scout these bottom 5 here because they are all, I think, it's still gone in value order. I think they're like the cheapest options, some of the cheapest options. I'm not sure how it's exactly done it, but I'm just going to shortlist all of these. I'm going to assign my other scout to them. So that's given us a lot of options at centre back and good options, not just players you have to spend 10 million on to recreate them, right? To recreate the stats, but pretty good. So when we go and sell Liam Kitching for hopefully a few million, that'll be a good little exchange there. So all of that was just for centre back. So I think I need to go through now and do the same thing for every position. But what I'll do, like I said, is rather than getting 3 players per team, I'll just get the best player, the best stats for each position from the top 3 teams, then average that out because it makes it a much simpler process and it gets us like a rough player. Then I think that's the easier way to do it. So we'll do it that way. So it won't take as long. But I think what I'll do then is I've shown you sort of how we're going to go about it. I think we'll conclude this episode with our attributes reveal. So I still don't know in future seasons whether I'll want to do this or not because I've actually quite enjoyed having no attributes, but I don't know if you, the viewer, would like to see the players we've been using. I'm thinking more about you and your viewing of the series. So what we'll do here is, before I continue on in getting all these stats, looking at these players, I think we'll do like our sort of attributes review, which I always said we'll do at the end of the season with the end of season review. So we'll do it at the end of this episode here up before we leave. So let's have a look then and see what we've been dealing with this entire season. Okay, I do not know where to start. Let's start off with our first signing, Matthew Platt. Are we ready? Are we ready? He's not too bad. He's nowhere near as bad as I thought he would be. You know, like I thought he'd be absolutely terrible. He couldn't play well at all. It's interesting though, I thought he was quick and he wasn't quick at all. So that's probably why he was no use to us on the back or on the side of the back 3. Not great. Not a great start for our signings, I guess. See our goalkeeper, Daniel Bentley. I don't know why he was so bad, but he was awful. But that's our goalkeeper. Jack Walton, that was our first choice keeper. That's a League One goalkeeper. He's actually really bad, isn't he? So no wonder we were struggling there. Liam Kitching, I predicted he was slow, and he definitely is. He's definitely getting sold 100%. Get out the club, Liam Kitching. James Bree, now he's a bit quicker than I thought he might. He's about right. He might have got his quickness up a little bit, but he was one of our signings, and yeah, I don't know. Side of a back 3 is probably all I would use him for. I don't really like him for anything else. Kake is nowhere near as fast as I thought he was. So that's probably a mistake that we made to sign him. He didn't cost us much though, so we got lucky with that, I suppose. K. Vincent Young, again, I don't know, I suppose he's fairly quick, but he's not great either, is he? He's really not very good. Mark Bowler, okay, so he's about what I thought he'd be like, because I think I've used him before. So I sort of had this image in my head when I signed him, so he's not too bad. For us, he'll probably be our backup left back next season. I mean, the only thing to consider with that, it's a lot of wages for a backup, so I don't know. Jordan Williams, now he's quick, but he's not very agile. So I already decided that he was probably going to leave. We said that earlier on. So yeah, he's probably going to leave, and he's got 1 year left on his contract anyway. Remy Vita, he's got pace. That's a proper wing back. So lucky for us, he's with us again next season. They accepted his loan to be renewed for no wages, so that's good. That's our left back for next season. Ryan Ledson, wow, he's a lot slower than I thought he was. and he's got some bad player traits as well. So there we are. That's our Ryan Ledson. He still might be as good a pivot player for us next season. He's pretty good in these areas here, just not very good with his physicals. Herbie King's like a slightly lesser version of Ryan Ledson. He's quite a similar player, isn't he, to be fair? Robert Palmer. So he was the player that had lots of dribbling per match. He's only got 12 acceleration, 10 agility, 11 dribbling, 11 first touch, off the ball 12. Like there's no reason, if you looked at his attributes here, you wouldn't think box-to-box midfielder, championship level, going to get you promoted, would you? So, like, that's quite interesting. He did so well in possession with us, but he never really excelled, but he did do pretty well on the stats. So, I don't know. I probably would keep him next year because, I mean, I'm not looking at the attributes and then changing my opinions of players. I'm still ignoring the attributes pretty much. I'm still looking at the stats, what I'm going to look at. So, he overperforms his attributes by quite a way. Marcus got 16 acceleration. I never would have guessed. Never would have guessed. Only 10 dribbling, 11 finishing. So, I don't know, next season he probably would be a winger for us, one of the wide players. But he wasn't great. He's got one absolute wonder goal, and that was it. So, there you go. Odor, he is so much worse than I thought he was. Oh my God. It's because his valuation was so high. I just assumed he was really good. He is not good. I've been struggling so much for last season. Callum Styles, yeah, he's about what I thought he would be. Just an all-rounded player, nothing too special. That's pretty much what he is. Dan Johnson, he is much better technically than I thought. And yeah, he's about right. He's about what I thought he was. He has a release clause because we didn't get promoted, but it's like 400 grand. I see. He's got the attributes. He's a good enough player, but he did not give us what we needed in terms of stats when he played this season. Like, he's a great player. I spent the whole season not using him, so we could renew his loan, but I don't know. I was fed up with him. He never played well for me. He never seemed to get into the game, no matter what position or formation we were playing. So there you are. And Nanda, he's a little slower than I thought he would be. In our current system, he might play on the left of the midfield. He's like our number 10 that can cut in, but he's not great. He's not worth $7 grand a week. Here comes the strikers then. Yep, useless number 1. Aaron Leia, Isaka, terrible, can't finish, could not hit a cow's ass with a banjo. Get out of the club next season. That was decided anyway. Harry Cornick, he's quicker than I thought he was. Okay, I thought he had 15 acceleration. So Harry Cornick has got a minimum release clause of 0 because we didn't get promoted, but he has been offered a new contract that removes that. So hopefully that is all good. Josh Coyote, Ian's business, 6'3", good in the air, can head. Proper player here. We have Sean Burkhardt, yeah, he's about what I expected. Cole Morris, he's a lot better than I thought he was. In fact, he's quite good. So, yeah, I don't know. That's a surprise, actually. He's quite good. Rio Griffiths is absolutely terrible. League 2 striker right there. Terrible decision to bring him in. And then let's quickly go in and turn those back off. And that is going to do the episode. So we did a lot in this episode. It might be quite long, actually. We did end of season review. We then looked through how we're going to identify the players to bring in, how the process sort of goes. So hopefully you enjoyed all of that. What I'm going to do now is go off camera and just do all of these calculations away off camera. And then when we come back, I'll have them all ready to go. So we can then go through and start looking at players in other positions. And it might be a bit like the third episode of the season, where it was like we went through the entire summer in one episode, played the first game of the season. It might be something like that, where you see us like looking for transfers and that kind of stuff. If this goes on long enough, this series, and it's still doing well, eventually I could probably like stream these episodes, where it's just going to be basically me playing for an hour, 2 hours of just searching for players, something like that. But yeah, that's a long way into the future. Hopefully you're still enjoying the series at the moment. So we're going to end the first season, finishing mid-table. We've identified what we want at centre-back. We're going to look at the other positions, and we'll go through all that in the next one and see what kind of players we can get and what players we can sell. I'm going to start putting some players on the transfer list and see what sort of offers we can entice, Liam Kitchen being one of them. But that's going to do the episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.